I refuse to answer on the grounds of main intent to criminate.
You got any business?
I refuse to answer on the grounds of intent to criminate.
You have any profession?
I refuse to answer on the grounds of main intent
You have
to
any
criminate.
occupation?
I refuse to answer on the grounds of main intent to
Are you a
criminate.
known racketeer?
I refuse to answer on the grounds of main intent to criminate.
What's her name, Winkleman, of the Elizabeth
You ever
Police?
get any money from Costello?
No.
And did you ever get any money from Meyer Lansky?
I never got money from any of those fellas.
None of those
None
fellas?
of those fellas. None of these
except
that
for
I've been
the-
reading about, or none that I knew. They never gave me anything.
None of the Fichettes?
No.
Good evening, folks. Welcome to Night Court, or excuse me, welcome to the Smoke Show Sunday night show. I'm off on my days. We've got James, co-host of Night Court, Bruce Wayne, co-host of Night Court, and Big Ron, also co-host of Night Court, with us tonight, and our in-house star, Jason, who actually didn't submit a recipe this week, so he's just going to be very critical on everyone else's, which, you know, I can respect that. We've also got Vet just showed up. Welcome, Vet. How was your trip to the hurricane zone?
Not over yet. Still have about 2 hours before I get back home. But
Was your drop successful?
actually, it ran into some snags. One drop location in East Tennessee was saying we're good on those goods that you had, so we had to switch gears, and we actually went to Elk Park, North Carolina, and dropped stuff off there, and we were received with warm welcome, needless to say. So very good trip.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. Our first dish up tonight's going to be from Florida, Big Ron, and it's a smoked meatloaf. Big Ron, this is not the first time you've smoked a meatloaf, is it?
No, not at all. Not the first time I've smoked a meatloaf. This is the first time I've actually written down the recipe, so there was that.
Okay, so this is something you've done as, I guess it's a family favorite.
Yes, my daughter's not a big meatloaf fan, and she loves my meatloaf, and it's even better the next day because you can slice it thin, throw it on some bread, a little bit of ketchup if that's your thing, and meatloaf sandwiches.
Interesting. And you, there's a different twist to yours. I want to save it for the audience so we can see it, but I've never seen a stuffed meatloaf, if you will. But let's get to it. We're already running late, folks, and I want to apologize for that. I got behind on schedule, getting out doing some Sunday activities. But let's go to this meatloaf. Check it out. So you did one on foil and you did one in a pan, and you gave some explanation in the recipe that I didn't put in there. But tell us about that before we get started. What's the difference?
So I was actually curious to see which one took the smoke better. If it was one that was just on the griddle or on a piece of aluminum foil, or if it was the one that was in the pan. Now the flip side of that is that the one that sits in the pan, you're going to get a buildup of the natural juices and fats, so it's going to give you a bit of a soggier bottom. And you'll notice that towards the end that I actually rectified that a little bit towards the end. So, but that was my thought process behind it, is I want to see which one actually took the smoke better. I think I normally put mine in a pan just because it's easier cleanup for me. So the out of the pan one I don't do too often, but I did them both this way for the show.
Well, what was the verdict? Could you tell the difference?
You could actually, yes. So out of the pan does take more smoke. You got a little bit of a better smoky flavor to it. The exterior was a little drier versus the one that was in the pan didn't seem to have as much smoke, but it was a lot more moist because of the pan holding a lot of those juices into the meat.
Okay, so here's our list of ingredients: 1 to 2 pounds of pork beef, and I know she bought that already mixed. I've never bought pork and beef mixed. I've bought the pork and beef separately and mixed it. That was interesting.
Yeah, I've never seen that before, so good on her. I normally do the same thing. I mix them myself.
Nice to know that you could buy that.
What's the mix ratio?
I think the pork to beef, I want to say it was 50-50, but the fat content was 80-20.
When you mix it yourself, do you do 50-50?
It depends honestly on my mood. I'll do 50-50 sometimes. Sometimes I'll go a little bit more beef. Um, it's not a big secret. I'm not a huge pork fan. So I tend to go more beef when I'm doing a lot of stuff. We talked about my smoked meatballs a while back, where I do beef, veal, and pork. And I actually go a little heavier on the beef, obviously, since veal is beef. I like the flavor of beef better.
Fair enough. So we've got a can of tomato paste, 2 eggs, 2 tablespoons of W sauce or Worcestershire sauce, and I think I made a typo here. 1 to 2 packs of beefy. What is that? Is that the
It's beefy soup mix. You can also use a beefy onion soup mix. It's kind of my spin on it. There's lots of recipes out there on the internet. This is my personal recipe. This is how I make my personal meatloaf. So, 1 to 2 packs of beefy soup mix or beefy onion soup mix, depending on your mood or what your flavor profile is. You could even use a cream of mushroom if you want it to. I prefer the beefy. Um,
and
and it puts
this is a dry soup mix, right?
Yes, this is a dry soup mix. You can find it in any dry, ingredients aisle in the soup aisle. It comes in a box. Like we use Lipton. Um, it works real well, but you don't have to add a lot of extra seasonings that way. You don't have to really go overboard with salts or peppers or anything like that.
Okay. And I see we have the tablespoon of Everglades seasoning, 1 tablespoon of all-purpose. What is that? Garlic, salt, and pepper,
Yep,
GSP.
GSP.
1 to 2 cups of seasoned breadcrumbs, string cheese, an aluminum loaf pan or a sheet of aluminum foil. Let's check it out. And you threw me off of those 2 jars of gravy back there. I was like, well, where did you use that?
Got to have that for the mashed potatoes. Completely forgot to put that in there. My apologies.
So we got the eggs, W sauce going in. Here's some GSP shaking in there. The breadcrumbs, the tomatoes paste, all your seedings are going into the same bowl, mixing it up. So now, what are we doing? Let me go back. What are you doing there? This is a step I've never seen.
So you gotta kind of boat out the center of it, or make a crevice in the center of it. I drop depending on how big your loaf's going to be, use a full string cheese or a string cheese and a half, depending. If you have a dog around, you have to pay the cheese tax, so it usually ends up being a piece and a half. Make sure you get it in there deep enough to where when you roll it and you get your shape, that it's not going to ooze out. You'll notice in mine that I didn't get mine in far enough and they started to ooze. But you want to make sure they're in there deep enough to ooze. Roll them up real good. Now, there's a couple of different things you can do at this point. Again, we've talked about this on other shows. Some of the stuff I've done, you can put them back in the fridge for a little bit. That'll help firm up the meat, let the flavors marinate a little bit, and then it will hold its shape a little bit better when it goes onto the grill. Or you can go straight onto the grill.
Okay, let's take a look.
Yeah, I've never seen the cheese either, but hard to go wrong with the cheese.
There's never enough cheese.
Yeah, I'm not angry with it. So once you put it in there, now you're rolling it now. This is the one on the foil.
Yeah, so I roll it out just to make sure the cheese makes it to the center, and you get that nice shape, and then you can form it the rest of the way to give that loaf shape or log shape.
Hey, Range, we're picking up some wind noise or something there. Could you?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, well, so you're gonna prep your smoker to 180 degrees. You got one on foil and one on the loaf pan. You've already explained that, and you're testing a theory. Okay, so you're going to smoke at that low temperature, 180 degrees for an hour. What type of wood smoke are you using?
I straight up did mesquite on this one. That's what I had in the grill. Did mesquite. You and I both are mesquite fans, and you can't go wrong with mesquite. You could do hickory with this also, given the fact that it's a ground beef with pork in it. Hickory wouldn't be bad. I would not suggest using any kind of a sweet wood. No fruit woods on this. You're going to throw the flavor profile off. Stick with a hardwood. I don't think I'd even do a nut. I think I would strictly stick with mesquite or hickory.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that. I'm a fan of both. All right, so after 1 hour, you're increasing temperature to 325, and you're going to cook the internal temperature to 165, 175, and that's it.
That's it. Depends on your what you want. Some people like it's like a hamburger. Some people like their hamburgers a little bit on the medium rare side. Some people like their hamburgers well. So it all depends on where you want. You don't want to get too much higher over that. You'll start drying it out. Nobody wants a dry meatloaf.
So that's it off the smoker, ready to go. So the cheese, look, does it normal for the cheese to bubble out of it like that, or
No,
is
like that,
thing?
and that's what I was saying in the beginning. You got to make sure you get it deep enough inside the loaf to where it doesn't do that. This one I didn't get it deep enough inside. The loaf on the left, the smaller loaf, obviously cooked quicker, so I moved it over to the cooler side of my grill. The loaf on the right was the one that was in the pan. It was also a bigger loaf, and you'll notice, I think in one of the pictures I sent in earlier, if you backed up, it's sitting on the griddle without it being in the pan, just to get some of those greases and oils off of it. But that color is the natural color of the meat when I got done smoking it. There's no sauces on that. I didn't brush it with anything. There's a lot of people out there that say put ketchup on it or whatever. None of that was done to that meat. That is the natural color of the meat, bringing it off the grill.
Now, is there a benefit to just slicing the meatloaf and sticking the cheese right on top versus like putting it in the center and just kind of having it at the core?
You're going for basically like an eclair or a Boston cream is what you want. So when you slice into that meatloaf, you've got the nice color and the flavor and the smoke, and then the very center of that is a nice chunk of melted cheese that oozes out. Great for presentation, tastes phenomenal.
Nice.
That answer your question, Bruce?
Yeah.
Let's see it cut. Okay, so we got the cheese there, and I see what you're talking about. If you'd gone a little deeper, then it would have been very similar to a meat eclair, which is kind of weird, but
It
it would
works.
have been essentially a stuffed meatloaf, right?
Right. Now, there's a lot of recipes out there too. Notice I don't put big chunks of peppers in mine or giant chunks of onions or anything like that. I personally don't like that. Neither does my family. Everybody's different. So if you like that, there's nothing wrong with taking fresh onion or fresh pepper and chopping it up finely, mixing it in, and then going that route with it. But I chose not to do that. And you can see in this picture there is a little bit of a pink ring around the outer edge where we did get some good smoke penetration into that meatloaf.
Yes. Well, how strong is the smoke on this meatloaf?
It's not overpowering. You can taste it. You can tell it's there, but it wasn't super overpowering. This is the one that was in the pan, and this is one of the things I wanted to test. So if you'll notice, you can see where that smoke ring comes down and just stops. So that's the upper section of the loaf that was in the smoke flow, and the bottom section where you have no color in it at all was the section that was in the pan. So I tested my theory that only the top was getting the smoke flavor when it's in the pan.
I guess it just doesn't have the surface area contact to smoke to actually smoke the meat.
Right. You still get the flavor, and it's a great way to cook it, especially if it's hot outside. But you're not getting that same flavor. But it is a good tasty meatloaf with the smoke.
Nice. All right, fellas, what comments do we have? Jason, what do you think about this? Is this competition for you?
I'm not a meatloaf guy, but I wasn't a chili guy either until I started experimenting. I'm gonna try this one. It's basically a kind of a meatloaf juicy Lucy, where you have the cheese in the middle. And don't go off on me for that word.
Yeah,
Got to be a Minnesota thing.
But no, I'm gonna try that. I'm not a meatloaf guy, and everything. I think the reason I don't like meatloaf is it's always been dry. I don't like the vegetables in meatloaf. If it was the way you made it, where it's just meat and cheese, I'm all about that. I do have, what kind of pork? You just use ground pork is all you used?
We have the ability to buy up here in Publix or down here in Publix, greatest grocery store in the world. We can get the mix, but you could just use a regular ground pork, and then a regular ground beef or a ground chuck. Mix them together. If that's your forte, you could do just straight up beef. I've done straight beef myself, and not use the pork in it. So it's all about what you want to do. Now with the seasoning percentages that I put on there, you may have to increase those a little bit depending on how flavorful you want the meatloaf. If you like it a little bit more flavorful, you can add more. If you want a little bit more of the natural flavors of the beef and the smoke, you can add a little bit less. It's definitely an experiment. In all honesty, with as big as this meatloaf was, I probably should have gone a little heavier on the seasonings uh, for my personal self. But it wasn't a bad meatloaf. It was one of my better ones.
Do you think I was watching that thinking pepper jack just for a little more kick to it?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Pepper jack, Colby jack, any cheese would work in it. We prefer mozzarella around here at the house, so that's what I put in it. String cheese, real easy to do. But they do make those different cheeses: pepper jack, the Colby jack, the cheddars, in sticks or in strings that you can put them in there. I wouldn't suggest shred it, only because of the way it melts. It melts kind of odd. And for in the any of the stick or string cheeses seem to melt real well.
No, it looks phenomenal. Like I said, I'm not a meatloaf guy, but this looks more like my taste buds would really like a lot. So I'm going to try that one.
So,
Nice job.
Jason, by putting cheese in a meatloaf like that, would you call that a cheesy chuck? Is it a cousin to the Juicy Lucy?
Kind of is, actually. I'm going to come up with a better name than that, but it's yeah. Let me think on that one.
You do some thinking on that. James, what'd you think about this?
We could call it a soggy bottom.
Only if
Well,
you
they are.
loaf them.
They are getting ready to bring out the whole SpongeBob thing at Wendy, so I guess that would work, huh?
Wrong side of bottom.
What you think about what do you think about this meatloaf, James?
I'm definitely not a meatloaf guy. The only way I've ever eaten meatloaf in my life is with copious amounts of ketchup. I don't think I would need anything at all for this meatloaf. That looks phenomenal.
Okay, so we got some thumbs up here. Hadn't gotten to Brown Bruce Wayne yet. He'll have something negative to say. But Bet, what do you think about this? Are you driving? You have a chance to see that?
Oh yeah, I got a chance to see it. Definitely gonna have to try that with the cheese in the middle. You're right about having mozzarella cheese in a dog. Every time I pop one of those open, he's just right there. He knows the sound of the plastic opening. It's crazy. The one thing I would not change, but just add, we are a peppers and onions family. So that would be the only thing I would add is maybe some chopped up fresh peppers from the garden and chop those in there and some onions, and that's about it. But that looks great, man. Looks phenomenal. Great color on the outside. And I did see that smoke penetration, man. Great job doing that. And I definitely think the pan ways to go, even with the soggy bottom. I think the pan ways to go. Want to keep that juice in there.
Yeah, the pan way is not a bad way. I did, like I said, I did pull it out at the end and let it sit on the griddle naked. Kind of, I don't want to say char, but definitely give the bottom some color. And that definitely helps. At least in my mind, it helps towards the end with the flavor of the meat. You don't have that real soggy ground beef pork bottom. And if you do the peppers and the onions in that vet, I would definitely make sure you do a fine chop on those. I mean, unless you like the big chunky stuff, but I would definitely do a finer chop. You get a better penetration through the meat and probably a better flavor profile.
Very well. We have Steve with the Range Minded podcast. What do you think about this, Range?
I think it looks delicious, honestly. One thing I could see doing is maybe mixing some homemade salsa just a little bit into the meat, just to kind of give it some flavor, and then making sure you get the right kind of percentage of binders in there to keep that meat together. But yeah, Ron, that looks tasty. I would totally eat that thing.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, the salsa might be an interesting idea. I guess that goes the same level as vet with the peppers and the onions in there. The only thing I could think of though is if you put the salsa, you're gonna probably clash a little bit with the flavor profile of the beefy onion soup mix. So that would be something I would look
Oh,
at.
that's true. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it looked delicious. That's something I definitely want to try. I think it looked good. But I'm with Jason too. I think I might change out the cheese for pepper jack or something just to give it some zing.
Zing it
Yeah,
up.
no.
Zing. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going with some zing. I think that may be a Idaho thing. Y'all looking for zing in your food, but I'll go with it. Bruce, what do you think about this meatloaf?
That looks real good. I'm with, I don't know if it was Jason. I think Jason said like all the meatloaf I've tried has been dry. I imagine that's just because I never tried it right or never had one done right. that cheese, great touch. I like that. Would you say there's like an ideal diameter to so that you get that smoke penetration on it versus it like if you get too small, then you get a lot of smoke penetration, but it dries out versus too big and you don't really get a lot of smoke flavor in it?
I don't think it's so much as size as what it's going to be with cook time. So if you're making a meatloaf for just yourself or maybe two, one or two people, depending on how well they like the meatloaf, a pound, maybe a pound and a half of meat would be more than adequate. You can adjust the thickness by changing the length of the loaf. If you go with a longer, thinner loaf, you're going to cook it a lot quicker. You're probably not going to get as much smoke penetration because of that. Versus if you go with one that's a little bit shorter and a little bit round, you're going to be able to cook it longer and get a little bit more smoke penetration, and allow for those juices and everything to work its way through the meat. The pan one that I did, I basically just did it to where it was just below the edge of the pan. I rolled it out on the aluminum foil, put it in the pan, and gave it that little bit of a rise in the center like you would a loaf of bread. And then just put it on the grill and let it cook. And don't forget that with that higher fat content, you're going to get a lot of juice that fills the pan. So there may come a point where you might have to siphon off some of that juice into a bowl if you want to use it for something. I don't know what, but siphon it off to allow that meatloaf to cook a little bit better and not be as greasy or as oily.
With it being in a loaf pan, could you just poke some holes in the bottom of it, drain that out?
Yeah, you could, and I've tried that. The problem being is that the natural fats and the meats that separate from the loaf as you're cooking it clog the holes, and it just defeats the purpose. And then you go to pick it up, and then you get all the oil that runs out at one time all over your grill.
Yeah, sounds like a solid point. Well, I'm going to commend you on that. I think I'm not a meatloaf guy. I don't like bell peppers, and I feel like when we do meatloaf, we try to make it not taste like beef, and I want it to taste like beef. So I like your recipe. I think I'm going to give it a shot, and I'm down with the mozzarella on the inside with the string cheese. I think it was a good, successful smoke. Looked good anyway.
Appreciate that.
Well, now we've got Range Minded. We've got a submission from him, smoked tri-tip and mac and cheese. He edited this video himself, but let's take a look at it and see how things are done in Idaho when it comes to smoking.
It's a windy day. I hope that's not affecting it too much. 48 is where the peak's at.
Okay, so you're smoking your tri-tip. What do you want to keep your temperature at there? About 210, 220?
Yeah, I didn't even want it that high. My wife found this recipe, and she was kind of taking charge of it all. And yeah, I wouldn't have smoked it as hot and as rapid as she wanted to do it, honestly.
Okay. Now we're doing macaroni and cheese here. What's in there now?
So that's just making a white sauce, homemade white sauce. So you got I think it's a quarter cup of butter, some flour, and then you just mix in your milk, and then there's a couple of cubes of chicken bouillon cubes in there just to give it full flavor.
That's a really interesting whisk. I like that.
As that heat starts to thicken.
I don't think he's using it right. You've got to extend your pinky when you're doing that.
Cheesy cheese sauce, and then we've grated some cheese already. There's maybe a cup of cheese right now.
All right, so now you're putting your cheese in the cheese sauce, right? And this is for the macaroni, right?
Yeah, it's for the mac and cheese. And then with this, you guys may know or not, you don't want to dump all your cheese on at once. You're going to get lumps, so you just kind of put a little bit at a time and keep stirring.
And then with that white sauce, you can see it's just melt that cheese. You could use, honestly.
What kind of heat are you putting on that pan?
Probably really good.
That's on our gas stove. It's on probably low to medium, just to get it a good melt.
Oh, and then my bacon here. It's probably, did you flip these?
Got some bacon frying. Looks good.
Yeah, and I want to get that bacon nice and crispy. And pretty soon, well, you'll see. Throw some chilies in there with it.
Jalapenos in there.
Or jalapenos, sorry. Jalapenos.
Toby.
Dog's waiting for some bacon.
Good looking dog.
High quality video. I want my bacon crisp. I don't want flimsy bacon because I want to crumble it on the top.
The man does not want flimsy bacon.
No way. Nobody wants flimsy meat.
And now these are jalapenos in there with your bacon?
Jalapenos. You could honestly.
That's interesting.
Are these fresh jalapenos or?
I asked for fresh jalapenos, and my wife brought me a jar of dined jalapenos. I guess I need to work on my communication skills.
I don't.
Plus, you get the taste jalapeno from the top.
Look at that. He's stirring and making
I think my
bacon
wife's actually
simultaneously.
stirring the white sauce thing.
You just can't take the compliment, Kenny.
No.
Obviously, you're just gonna flavor your taste.
What are you putting in there?
Just salt and
Look
pepper.
like a beer bottle.
Yeah, I turned a couple bottles into salt and pepper shakers.
That's awesome.
We're doing shells today.
Classic.
All right, so we got pasta shells. Is that what I saw on there?
There you go.
Yeah, shells.
Okay.
It doesn't matter what you use for mac and cheese, as long as they're not spaghetti noodles, I guess.
Are those emerald pans?
Had to cut video there.
Get bacon right away.
We added another half cup or so of cheese. You don't want to dump all your cheese in at once because it's kind of lumpy, so just kind of go in steps.
The cheese sauce is getting there. I see it thickening up a little bit. Maybe not all melted.
Yeah, not
There we
yet.
go.
Obviously, you don't want it to burn the bottom of the pan because then it doesn't taste good.
So on that, you suggest a slow heat. Take your time, right?
Yeah, you don't want it to burn because that is just that's awful.
Have you guys seen the robot stir?
Cheesy, obviously, add more cheese.
I don't know if I have or
I
not.
have not. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's like it looks kind of like an octopus. You just put it inside the pan and turn it on, and it will sit there and spin and stirs whatever you're cooking, so it doesn't stick to the bottom and burn.
There's jalapenos and bacon. Bacon's just about ready to come off. Should be good. So I pulled the bacon out.
It's not a crazy idea what you speak of.
No, especially when you're doing a long cook on pasta sauce.
All right, so what's happening here?
There's a lump in there. See that? If you don't pay attention. Anyway, so now we're just putting in the white sauce, mix it around a little bit, and I want to throw my bacon on with some more cheese on top with the jalapenos and I wish I would have done this a little bit different.
In the smoker, the diced
as far as smoke time is for the mac and cheese. It needed more time in the smoker.
Well, we learned from our meatloaf that something in a pan is going to be limited on its surface area contact. Smoke will limit it on how it takes smoke.
I actually made this the night before we had a community party, and it tasted. It had way more smoke flavor. It was way good, but we let it kept it in the smoker probably another colder, but probably another 15-20 minutes longer.
That's why she's making it, because if I make it,
and it had a good flavor on the top. It was tasty.
All right, next step.
The hell are you going to do with that bacon? Oh, you didn't show us the chops. Okay, so you chop the bacon and put it in there. What's this other stuff going in there with it?
I accidentally cooked my peppers too long in there. It got away from me.
Oh, those are jalapenos?
And my daughters did not want jalapenos on the whole thing, so
Excited about the jalapenos.
I put it on one side.
Throw these on the smoker.
Well, I hope our folks in the South and Texas didn't see what you did with the jalapenos. I'd hate to see a warrant for your recipe issue.
And we're going to go from there.
All right. Tri-tip's back on. Mac and cheese is in. Okay, now we're going back to the microwave smoker.
That's right.
What's the temperature now? Might be about 310.
Go look at my messy deck. See ya.
Okay. I'm not angry with the tri-tip. That looks good. Got some decent bark starting to form on it. Yeah, I'm not angry with that either. That looks pretty good. Let's take a freeze frame on that picture. Let's take a look at that. We got
Not
a good
too bad of a
smoke
smoke ring.
Looks like we had pretty solid temperature all the way through that.
Yeah, I was worried it was too hot, but it didn't turn out too bad.
How long was your rest time?
We rested that probably only 10 minutes or so before we ate.
Probably could use another 10 or 15, you think?
Yeah, absolutely. My kids
that looks good. That looks
my kids
good.
were complaining they needed to eat, so
Well, yeah,
they have no chill. It's frustrating.
It does look good. There it is with the mac. So the mac and cheese.
Yeah.
What was our smoke level on that?
So we put that in the last. Gosh, that was a week ago now. I got to remember. I think we had it in there probably 15, 20 minutes. That's what I'm saying. It was too hot for too short amount of time. I wish I could have slowed it down and almost done it on a separate smoker, honestly.
So what you're saying is reduce the temperature so that it didn't dry your mac and cheese out, but leave it under smoke at lower temperatures for a longer period of time? Correct.
Yeah, because the one I made the day before was so good. It was perfect as far as flavor. In fact, I didn't even get any. It was gone before I could dish any from that neighborhood party. It was gone.
Did you have tri-tip the day before?
Hell no. That was for me.
Okay. That'll make the macaroni being not as good as it could be. That I'm sure that tri-tip will make up for that because it looked.
Yeah, it was.
So
tasty.
what are you putting on your tri-tip?
So I just did salt and pepper. That's all I put on there.
Salt and pepper. I respect that.
Sometimes I'll throw a little bit of garlic on there, just a hint of garlic. But on this go around, it's like, no, I just want to keep purist and salt and pepper. That was it.
And how was your smoke flavor on that? And tell us what kind of smoke flavor did you use? What kind of pellets did you use in your microwave smoke?
I used a blend, which I think is hickory and I don't remember what the other one in there, but it might be mesquite is in there with it. But yeah, it was tasty. It was good. So you get that. I know it's not like a traditional smoker, which I still think I want to build me one. But yeah, I mean, I'm just a poor kid from Idaho, so I got to use the microwave smoker.
Well, those microwave smokers are quite more. They cost quite a bit more than a traditional smoker. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, but we don't smoke around here like you do in the South, so it's more money for us weirdos.
Well enough. Bruce, what's you giving thumbs up? Now, there's two dishes here. We got the tri-tip and the smoked macaroni. You got any critique for either?
It looks real good. I don't really have any critique. I do wonder, though, is there any benefit to grilling those jalapenos with the bacon? Like, do you want some of that bacon grease flavor with them? Or would you be able to control the temp? Because I know you said they got a little overdone. And so, like, I know you could probably toss them in a little later.
Yeah.
If you wanted that. Or would it be better to, like, cook them on the side? Or I guess what I'm asking is, does that bacon grease cooking in them add something?
The goal was, and I don't know if I achieved it, was to give the bacon and the peppers just a hint of each other in the flavors together. And it kind of worked, but not as well as I'd hoped. That was something I just kind of threw in there when I did that night before for the community party. It was still good, but yeah, I don't mind the flavor of the jalapenos. I'm not a spice guy, but I love the flavor. So I was hoping to pull that out with the bacon and the peppers.
Well, and cooking them will reduce some of that heat, and I bet some of the smoking reduce the heat too. I'm a huge fan of like Hatch chili peppers in mac and cheese, so I'm totally gonna try your method of doing mac and cheese next time. That looks delicious.
Range, first time you've done smoked mac and cheese? Obviously, you did two pans in 2 days.
This would be the second. This would be the second one, yeah. And I'd totally do it again. I mean, it's a learning curve for me because I don't do smoking enough. But it was tasty. My kids ate it. They enjoyed it. It was gone. Like, it didn't last very long, so that was a plus too.
Well, if the kids eat it, it's good mac and cheese because they know what mac and cheese is supposed to taste like. But James, what do you think about this one?
The only comment that I really have is filming in portrait mode should be outlawed.
Just use my phone, bro.
He's ready to go TikTok on this, I believe.
Bless his heart.
It does look good. Is that all you got to say? You like the dish, but you're not happy with the way it was presented?
This looks fantastic. I'd eat that down, no problem. But gosh, that portrait
You give him 5 stars on the dish and 1 star on presentation.
Correct, indeed.
So now I know how to irritate James. Perfect.
It doesn't take much. James is a hair trigger. He just sounds like a nice guy. We know. Okay, let's go to Big Ron. What do you think about this?
Yeah, Steve, great job, man. Good color, nice rendering of the fat. You can see the pockets inside the meat where it's rendered down real well. I like the pinch test there at the end. So good coloring. I like it. You can even see it's just still a bit on the medium rare side too, sitting there on the plate. I don't have much to say about macaroni and cheese. I'm not a big macaroni and cheese fan. Doesn't matter how you make it. I don't like it. So I'm sure it was great. It looks good. But yeah, that's phenomenal job on that tri-tip, man. Great job.
Not a fan of mac and cheese, man.
Yeah,
I guess when we get together, I'm bringing mac and cheese so Ron can eat it.
Not a big fan of watermelon either.
All right, I don't eat watermelon. I don't like watermelon at all.
Oranges, on the other hand, I'll eat oranges all day long. Love me some oranges.
Okay,
That's kind of like
Jason.
it. That's kind of like
sorry.
it. I've never been to Europe either. Moment. Mac and cheese is nothing like watermelon. Watermelon doesn't really have flavor. Mac and cheese though is just God's gift to man.
All right.
Replace butter with Kerrygold.
Jason, what do you think about this? And also want an opinion. Could Range have done this without his wife? I'm thinking the answer on that is no. I think this really was a Miss Range dish that Range is taking credit for. But what do you think, Jason?
I think Range just cooked 2 of my most favorite meals together. I love tri-tip and I love smoked mac and cheese. Tri-tip turned out great. I will say, when I do smoked mac and cheese, you pick 2 different cooks with 2 completely different temperatures needed to cook. And that probably was the struggle there, because when I cook smoked mac and cheese, the whole thing is in the smoker, and I think I'm going off memory here, but I'll do it like 275 for like 2.5 hours, and then I add stuff to it as you go along, so it gets that really good smoky taste. I use a lot of different flavors. I think I use 4 different flavors of cheese. I put a little bit of Red Hot in there as well. What you did looks great. I think you picked the tri-tip and is more of a cooking meat with smoked pasta. Those are 2 combos that are really hard to do at the same time.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But overall, looking at that picture right now, you make me want to make another tri-tip. That's probably my favorite cut of meat, that and a ribeye.
Okay, Jason, but also need a determination. Was this a range-minded dish or was this a Range-minded dish?
I think range-minded solo could have done. Can your wife hear me?
Absolutely not.
Okay, good. Next time, do it when she's not home. You do it.
I could do it myself, but you got to understand, I delegate.
Okay.
Just kidding. I'm married. She delegates to me.
Yeah, we knew that already. You didn't have to clean that up. We knew what the truth was.
I do not allow my wife to help me smoke anything. That's my space.
Dang. Yeah, it's mine too. Nobody can help me smoke. I'm not going to listen to you anyway. I'm going to do it my way. But the macaroni and cheese, it looked like she had a command presence on the macaroni and cheese sauce.
She definitely makes the white sauce better than me. I took control of the bacon and the peppers.
Yeah, we saw.
I'm just trying to save myself in some way.
No, brother. I think that was a valiant effort and great outcome. The tri-tip does look like it hit the temperatures right. You got plenty of smoke. You even got a little bark built up on it. The macaroni and cheese. Now, let me ask you this: do you go out and do you stir your macaroni and cheese with any regular interval
Nope.
while you're smoking it?
No, not with the bacon and peppers on there. I want to leave it alone. Just let it kind of, because I like it crispy on the top too. So with that extra cheese you sprinkle on the top, I kind of like the little crust on the top anyways.
I think if you'll work on your method there, and for the most of the time, if you'll turn it, you'll exposing more macaroni and cheese to
smoke.
surface area smoke and get a stronger smoke in it. Maybe put the bacon and the cheese on at the end
On the
for a
very
finish
last.
out. Maybe.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
If you want a crust on top too, towards the end of the cook, you can make some breadcrumbs. Sprinkle some breadcrumbs on there with some cheese, and let the cheese and the breadcrumbs kind of melt together, and it'll give you a nice crust over the top.
Nice.
Yeah, that's some Southern style macaroni and cheese right there, which is very good. I do like that as well. Okay, I'm going to give 5 stars on both the dishes tonight. Both the meatloaf, which I'm not a big fan of, but that meatloaf looked delicious. Big one. I'd sit down and eat that no problem. And range, yeah. The tri-tip and the smoked macaroni, I think, is also a 5-star dish that nobody would turn their nose up if the plate was set in front of them. Not if they're, freedom-loving Americans anyway. I don't know about some
right.
folks across the world. But no, good job, guys. Good job on this whatsoever. Now, next week, I believe we've got a submission by Bruce Wayne. So everybody needs to show up because we're going to beat up Bruce Wayne pretty hard.
Is it just another baked potato?
No, he's gone further than a baked potato. We're talking hamburger. But I'm telling you, the hamburgers, the stuff that I got late this afternoon looks pretty good. Bruce Wayne may have accomplished himself a 5-star cook on.
Man, you got that last weekend, and I don't think we ever showed my Hasselback potato.
Hasselback potatoes. I believe I've only got like some sample photos as far as like the recipe. I don't believe I've got. What do you mean I got that last? What did I get today? What did you send today?
I haven't sent anything today. You said you got this late today.
No, he said last week.
Nah, stop defending him. Makes me sick.
Honest question, guys. Have any of you done bacon wrapped Oreos?
That sounds awful. Why would you mention that?
I was looking it up and I don't know. Some people say it's really good. I was going to try a couple.
You know what? My apologies. I got smoked salmon this afternoon late. And Bruce, I could have put yours together. I was looking in emails and I realized that you sent yours on DM.
I'm just no, salmon's not for this week. It's still brining right now. Probably won't be done till this evening. So
yeah, we'll have it for next week as well. So we'll have a hamburger from Bruce Wayne and we'll have a salmon dish from Bruce Wayne. Plenty of opportunities to poke holes in his methods.
I'll come up with something for next week.
I'm looking forward to it all.
Make sure you film everything in portrait mode.
Don't make it hard on me when it comes time to edit these, please. Don't make it more difficult. All right, folks. I don't have any more. Does anybody else have anything they want to add or a discussion they want to have before we close this up for the week?
I think we had solid submissions today. Good job to everybody.
I agree. I think we had solid submissions. Next week, I'm going to try to get our friend of mine on about his barrel smokers.
Hold up. Do we not have the hamburgers today?
No, sir. We do not have the hamburgers today.
Man, I made those last week. We still have gone around to them.
Did you send that to me on DM? Or on the email?
I don't use the email because I got to send like one photo at a time.
So it's on DM? My apologies. I pulled everything off of the email. I didn't think to go and look for the DM for special princess submissions, but I will, and we'll have that next week.
Nice. So I'm 2 weeks out already. I like it.
Yeah, you're 2 weeks ahead, Bruce. I'm going to burn both those up next weekend, so you'll be at 0 again next weekend.
No, because I'm going to have a hard time remembering what I did. It's already been I'll have to.
Did you put the recipe down and the instructions in the submission?
The whole point of me being here to narrate is so I can talk it through.
It's going to be real difficult for me to put together a video, but I can work on it. Let me look at your pictures. I can probably make that happen. But Yeah, no, next weekend's going to be the Bruce show. We're going to do every recipe Bruce submits between now and then. Everyone that he has submitted, I'm just going to put one long video together and we're going to run it through and let him narrate each one of it. But I'm going to do it at 2 times the speed, so I hope he can talk fast.
Now we're just going to we're going to only do hamburgers. I'll save the smoking part of the salmon until I'll drop those like Sunday, half hour before the show. So
no, go ahead and get it done. Drop them this week, man. Let's knock them out. Let's get 2 dishes. You know, essentially Range did. He did tri-tip, which is a meal, and he did smoked macaroni, which is a meal. So if Range can do 2, you can do 2.
That's very true.
It is. It's very true.
I don't know that hamburgers and salmon go together like mac and tri-tip.
No, there'll be 2 separate videos. We'll pretend it's 2 different days, just like it was.
It's a surf and turf.
Why don't you send a picture one time wearing a skirt with one of the videos and then an apron in the other one? See, it's covered.
A skirt, possibly, but no, I don't think I can pull off an apron. I'm too manly for that.
Yeah, I'd like you to know I was wearing an apron when I was making the meatloaf.
What? You know what? You guys say that. I need to get with Sig. Our aprons should be. I need to see the final design. I think we're about ready to push these aprons out. I need to get with Sig after the show. I forgot.
Did you not notice that, Joe, that I was wearing an apron?
I didn't see that picture. No.
I'll have to go back and look.
So it sounds like the smoke show needs some branded cutting boards too.
You know anybody that does those?
I think I know a guy.
We should talk about that. That's not a bad idea. That actually might be something that's functional that people could actually use. Well, the apron is functional as well.
But yeah, just no
people will absolutely use that because you're cooler with it than you are without it.
And a
100%.
decent sized cutting board too, not one of those little like 8-inch by 8-inch ones that you can barely fit a tomato on.
Yeah, we don't want a vet. We're not looking for a vet LT3 cutting board. We're looking for
so that one that I was cutting that tri-tip on, that one is probably 16 by 20, maybe.
That's a good size.
That's white oak. Size. I think it's white oak, sapele, and walnut. I think is what that one is.
Why don't you combine them and combine the 2 and make an apron with a cutting board that folds down in front of you,
like a nut blocker?
It's not a dumb idea. Just saying.
Trying to figure out how that's going to work. Let me think on that.
Well, I'm just going to try to get the apron finally locked down. We've got a couple of different designs, and there was one correction on it, and I had not followed up with Sig to see if he's got it done so that we can actually push those out and let folks take advantage of it. But it's a cool looking apron. It's gonna be nice. And Jason's gonna be the first one to stand in line to get his purchase shipped out, and so he can take pictures of it. He'll probably wear it at work. He'll have to put his badge on the outside of it.
No,
I think he should be the model.
No, I'm not wearing a fucking apron.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Nope.
That's what it's going to be called.
Over his McGruff the crime dog trench coat.
Jason's got standards.
Not wearing an apron.
What if we put a badge on the apron? Still no?
Good idea.
I think apron wearers are part of that ABCDEFG group, to be honest with you.
That's highly unlikely.
No, that's not the way it works at all. No.
They do different things with meat.
I'm going to shut up now.
Smoking that we're not engaged in.
Ways.
Yeah, never mind.
Intent to criminate.
You have any profession?
I refuse to.
All right, with that, folks, we're going to close out the show. Give me about 30 minutes, and we'll pick up smoke show after party, and we'll continue the trash talk. You know,
Whoever
we
get
like
any
doing
money from Costello?
No.
And did you ever get any money from Meyer Lansky?
I never got money from any of those fellas.
None of those
None
fellas?
of those fellas. None of these that I've been reading about, or none that I knew. They never gave